Brad Oaster, and today I would like to talk to you about the steps involved as you look to move your ministry either from temporary facilities, maybe at a Y.M.C.A. or a school or a movie theater, into a permanent first building. And not just in that situation, but maybe you've outgrown your existing building and you need to expand or relocate. Well, a lot of times the thought of doing that can be pretty overwhelming. So I've put together an ebook for you called The 10 Steps That It Takes to Move Your Ministry from Your Current Facility to the Facility of Your Dreams. And so we're going to go through those steps here just real quickly. And then in this video blog, what we'll do is we'll take each step and we'll break that down into a separate video and we'll get into a lot more detail. Well, the first step is to put together a strategic ministry plan. I know it doesn't have anything to do with land acquisition or architects or anything, but really it sets the foundation for everything else that you're going to do in your ministry. If you don't know kind of the who, what, where, when, and why of your ministry, then you wouldn't know where to go look for land. Do you look on this side of town? Or do you look on that side of town? How big of a piece of property do you need? Do you need 3 acres because you're going to be a neighborhood church? Or do you need 50 acres because you're going to be a mega church? That'll all be flushed out in the process of developing your strategic plan. So that's step number 1. Only after you have your strategic plan should you go out and look for land, which is of course step number 2. When you're looking for property, you want to look at land that's not for sale. You want to look at the absolute best location you could possibly have. And one of the things that we do when we teach land acquisition classes is train people that God made the planet, God owns all the land. He's got a site out there that he has reserved specifically for you. And if God made the planet, why would he not give his church the very best location? So we'll get into a little bit more detail on that in a future blog, or you can go to the website and you can download an ebook that we've prepared for you called Creative Land Acquisition. It's a free resource and you can find that on our website at bradoaster.com. So the next step is to determine your long-range facility needs. What does that look like in the way of a master plan? Okay, if you've got land picked out, and sometimes you don't even need to have that, but if you've determined, you need 10 acres or 15 acres, or maybe you don't even know how much land you need. Well, to sit down and do kind of a conceptual master site plan of everything you envision your ministry being 20 years from now, how much property would that take? Then you develop what's called a master plan, which goes through the entire site, builds it out fully, and then what you do is you start breaking that down into bite-sized chunks in what's called a phased development plan, where you look at, okay, here's what phase 1 looks like, here's what phase 2 looks like. That way, when you're finished, you end up with a campus that works. It's not kind of like the Winchester Mystery House where you just keep slapping on a lean-to. I mean, it's cohesive, you've got great pedestrian traffic, you've got great vehicular circulation, everything works. The next step you need to look at, step 3 here, would be looking at your financial analysis. What can you afford? When you start looking at a phase 1 building, you need to do that with a sense of reality. A lot of times churches will go out and they'll just start drawing and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Architects love to make you happy, right? And if you say, oh, can we add this wing? Can we add that wing? The answer is, oh yeah, sure we can do that. It's called design creep. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, you end up with a building that you can't afford to build because it's just gotten so big. So what you need to do is look at your financing, do a financial analysis. What can you anticipate in fundraising? What can you borrow? What's your total project cost going to be? And then don't look at the total amount like you're going to spend that all on the building. There's a lot of different things that go into developing a building besides sticks and bricks. There's 5 after you have the land. Okay, there's soft cost, that is architectural fees, building permits, hiring all the consultants to design all the drawings. There's a lot of fees that get paid out there. So there's soft cost. Then there's site development work. When you're looking at a piece of property, you have to do the grading, you have to do parking lots and landscaping and storm water runoff. Maybe that's a detention pond, something like that. So now we've got soft costs, we've got site work, then we've got the cost of the building. Okay, that's sticks and bricks and mortar and drywall and carpet, everything that goes into the building. We've still got 2 more things that can be fairly expensive. We've got what's called FF&E, furnitures, fixtures, and equipment. That's all the furnishings that go into the building. It's like when you bought your first house or you moved into an apartment, it's empty. Right? It's kind of hard to live in a big empty space. You want to have the furnishings that go into it in order to conduct the ministry and the programs that it's designed to do. And we just shorten that to FF&E, furniture, fixtures, and equipment. The last thing to consider is your sound, video, and lighting system. That can be pretty expensive. You can spend anywhere from a couple $100 a seat in the auditorium to well over $1,000 a seat. So you have to take your budget, what you can afford, break it down into those 5 categories, and then start thinking about the size of the building. A lot of churches make the mistake of designing a building that's way too big, and then when they consider those other options, they can't afford it. Now they've wasted not just a lot of time, but they've wasted a lot of money in professional design fees. So after the phasing, you want to look at your fundraising. How do we go about generating as much money as we can? My preference is to always pay cash for buildings. It doesn't happen all the time, but we've got an ebook called Debt-Free Development that I'd like you to get. You can get that right on our website. And that'll show you ways that we've helped churches in the past to go out and actually develop facilities that when they moved in, they're debt-free. Now, we didn't always have to raise the cash to do it up front. Sometimes we put in a daycare, we put in a mini storage, or we put in different economic engines that will generate the revenue for you. That will make your mortgage payment, it'll make your insurance payment, make the payments on your utilities so that you're free from that. So when money comes in through tithes and offerings, it's going into staffing, ministry, people, programs, and not interest rates and utilities and insurance. Step number 7 is before you get very far in your drawings, you want to check on your zoning. Make sure the property is zoned properly. Make sure you're working with the city or the county, whatever the government regulation is there, to make sure that you can actually put a church on that property. Most properties you can. If it's residential, if it's R zoning, that's residential zoning. It can be R1, it can even be AR, which is agricultural residential, all the way up to like R3. You can generally always put a church on that. But if your property is zoned commercial or industrial, you're going to want to make sure that you can actually put a church on that property first off, before you buy it. And then, of course, before you go out and spend a lot of money on architecture. So be sure that you're working with your planning department at your local city government or at the county. Then the next step, once you have all of that, now you've got your fundraising, you got your financing, you got your architecture, you got your drawings. The next thing to do is go into construction drawings. That's the actual nuts and bolts of how you put the building design together. Typically with an architect, there's multiple phases that they work through. There's what's called programming. That's the first phase. Then there's schematic designs. After schematics, you go into design development and then working drawings. Working drawings is where the bulk of the design work happens as far as actually constructing the building. My recommendation is always to have a general contractor working with you during that process. If you don't, you run the chance of the design just getting a little bit out of hand and then not being able to afford it. If you have a contractor, a general contractor, project manager working with your architect as they go through the design process, you can keep a tab on the cost and make sure that the finished product, you're paying a lot of money for this design, turns into an actual building that you can afford. From there, you go get your loan. That's step number 9 is construction financing, mobilization, getting started. And please don't ever, bankers are nice people. Sometimes they're just too nice. You talk to the local bank and they pat you on the back and, oh, sure, Pastor Scott, we'll do the loan for you. You're a good customer, blah, blah, blah. And so you go and you do this, and then you go back and you need a $3 million loan. The guy acts like he doesn't know you. Or if he does act like he knows you, it's always that loan committee. It's not me, Pastor, I'd give you the money, but there's new regulations that we have to abide by. There's the loan committee. I'm sorry, but we just can't give you $3 million. And now you've got, a church that's gone through a groundbreaking ceremony. You've got a building permit. You're ready to go, but you don't have any money. Okay, so you want to make sure that you cover your bases when it comes to financing and get it in writing. Okay, if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. Your banker can promise you the moon, but if he doesn't put it in writing, it doesn't mean anything. So make sure you have your finances in order. And never, never do a groundbreaking ceremony unless you've got a building permit in your hand and you got the loan money, paper signed, ready to go, because it can cause great embarrassment for you when you go out and you do this big hoopla and the newspaper's there and the mayor's there and you do all your groundbreaking, and then the next week people come back and nothing's happened. The next month they come back and nothing's happened. And 3 months later they come back and nothing's happened because you didn't either have your building permit or you didn't have your financing in order. Okay, so wait until you have those and then have a phenomenal fundraising, or I'm not sorry, not fundraising, but a phenomenal groundbreaking service that you can all look back on and remember. Then the next step, it's actually step number 10, is the actual construction. That's getting the contractor out there, bulldozers running, building the foundation, getting the entire building up and ready. You get your occupancy permit when you're ready to move in. That's the highlight of my job, really, is going to, I love groundbreaking ceremonies and I love building dedications. It's one of the best things that we, Kim and I, get to enjoy with our ministry partners around the world. But then keep in mind, that's when the work starts. You don't want your congregation sitting back thinking, we've arrived. We got this big new plush building. We need to sit back in our lazy boy chair and listen to the pastor and the easy street from here on out. That's not it. God's given you a powerful tool for ministry, and you want to use that to go out and reach the lost in your community, to develop reproducing Christ-like disciples. And so when you get your occupancy permit, that's when it's time to go to work. We've got lots of information on our website for you. There's a bunch of ebooks. You can look at Oaster Development on our YouTube channel. There's all kinds of videos there. We're here to be a resource to you in whatever way we can. We hope that you call us if you need any help, but feel free to call at 719-439-3019. Remember the words of Solomon, seek wisdom, gain knowledge. That'll serve you well. Thank you.